Welcome to Using the Full Function Calculator from the MathPac. We begin by clicking on the Calculator button from the Home menu, and this brings me to the calculator. You'll notice that everything you need is right here on the front screen. I would like to start with something simple, like let's say e raised to the negative pi I. Of course, we expect this answer to be -1. We click equals and we see the answer is -1. There's a memory function, and to store anything in memory you just click the into memory. Now I can clear. You'll notice it clears everything, but it has not cleared the memory. To recall something from the memory, I click this button. You see it pulls it right back. To delete one space, I just back up single space at a time. Most of these are pretty common. If I want to change something into a fraction, let's say 5 divided by 7, we know that's here's a nice decimal number. Let's multiply it by 3, and you'll see we get a nice answer here. If I want to change that back into a fraction, I click this button right here. You see that changes it back to a nice pretty fraction for me. If I hit clear again, you notice it clears the last entry. If I hit clear a second time, it does clear the entire screen. So by hitting it repeatedly, you can clear the current line or the entire screen. Now, we do handle complex arithmetic. That's the I feature. Of course, it has to be in standard form. So let's pick a number like 2 plus 3i. And let's raise that to a power, let's say. Let's raise it to the second power, so we're going to square it. And you'll notice that it returns the answer in standard complex arithmetic form. So the number in front of the comma here is the real part, and the number behind the comma, of course, would be the imaginary part. So this would be interpreted as -5 plus 12i. We can also just raise I itself to a power. Let's say I raised to the 24th power. Of course, that is divisible by 4. And we see that we get just a single return, 1. And by the way, anytime you're working with complex numbers, if the return is a single value, then that is the real part. The only time there'd be an imaginary part, the display would have the parentheses with the real part in the front, the imaginary part in the back. Let's do some trig. Let's take the sign of a number. Let's say we want the sign of 1, because that was the last entry, so it assumes that's what I want the sign of. If that is not the case, I just back up and start over. So when I had that answer 1, I could just clear it, and then of course it won't remember that. Now I can enter any number I want, but of course the default is radians, because that's the most common unit of measurement when you're dealing with trig. So if you want degrees, you just have to hit this button here for degrees. Notice that puts the little degree symbol up there. And so for the sine of 30 degrees, you see that it gives me a decimal number here, 0.4999999. Goes on and on. Of course, I just click the fraction button and I see that that's just 1/2. That's what we expected. I know there's a lot to remember here, so I have put all that into a help feature for you. By clicking on the menu button, there is a help. If you click on help, I have put all of this into the help. It is built into the application, so you don't have to keep looking at the the internet to read the help. It's all here for you, and you can scroll up and down to read different parts of the help. And I think that covers most of the keys here. They're all pretty self-explanatory, I hope. The one that you may not be familiar with if you're a math student is this button here. It looks like an exclamation mark. Of course, that's the factorial key, and so the factorial just means multiply by the number and every whole number less than it till you get to 0. So for example, if I say 4 factorial, that means 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And you see that answer would be 24. 2 factorial would of course just be 2. And 0 factorial is by definition 1. So it's all here on the calculator. Don't forget the help. And this ends the session on using the full function calculator.